the I'm gonna share this out, y'all. I'll be with you. Mm. Hey, John McDonald, how you doing, bro? Good to see you. Hell yeah. You're here. Let's do another dab. Give me 1 second. So using this, let's use my nectar collector. Here it is.
So great was the power that Saruman exerted in this last effort that none that stood within hearing were unmoved. But now the spell was wholly different. They heard the gentle remonstrance of a kindly king with an erring but much-loved minister. But they were shut out, listening at a door to words not meant for them, ill-mannered children or stupid servants overhearing the elusive discourse of their elders and wondering how it could affect their lot. Of loftier mould these two were made, reverend and wise. It was inevitable that they should make an alliance. Gandalf would ascend into the tower to discuss deep things beyond their comprehension in the high chambers of Orphan. The door would be closed, and they would be left outside, to await allotted work or punishment. Even in the mind of Theoden, the thought took shape like a shadow of doubt. He will betray us, he will go, we shall be lost. Then Gandalf laughed. The fantasy vanished like a puff of smoke. Saruman, Saruman, said Gandalf, still laughing. Saruman, you missed your path in life. You should have been the king's jester and earned your bread, and stripes too, by mimicking his counselors. Ah, me. He paused, getting the better of his mirth. Understand one another. I fear I'm beyond your comprehension. But you, Saruman, I understand now too well. I keep a clearer memory of your arguments and deeds than you suppose. When last I visited you, you were the jailer of Mordor, and there I was to be sent. Nay, the guest who has escaped from the roof will think twice before he comes back in by the door. Nay, I don't think I will come up. But listen, Saruman, for the last time, will you not come down? Isengard has proved less strong than your hope and fancy made it. So may other things in which you still have trust. Would it not be well to leave it for a while? To turn to a new thing, perhaps? Think well, Saruman. Will you not come down? A shadow passed over Saruman's face. Then it went deathly white. Before he could conceal it, they saw through the mask the anguish of a mind in doubt, loathing to stay and dreading to leave its refuge. For a second he hesitated, and no one breathed. Then he spoke, and his voice was shrill and cold. Pride and hate were conquering him. Will I come down? He mocked. Does an unarmed man come down to speak with robbers out of doors? I can hear you well enough here. I'm no fool, and I don't trust you, Gandalf. They don't stand openly on my stairs, but I know where the wildwood demons are lurking at your command. The treacherous are ever distrustful, answered Gandalf wearily. But you needn't fear for your skin. I don't wish to kill you or hurt you. As you would know if you really understood me, and I have the power to protect you. I am giving you a last chance. You can leave Orthanc free if you choose. That sounds well, sneered Saruman. very much in the manner of Gandalf the Great, so condescending and so very kind. I don't doubt that you would find Orthanc commodious and my departure convenient, but why should I wish to leave? And what do you mean by free? There are conditions, I presume. Reasons for leaving you can see from your windows, answered Gandalf. Others will occur to your thought. Your servants are destroyed and scattered. Your neighbors you have made your enemies, and you have cheated your new master, or tried to do so. When his eye turns hither, it will be the red eye of wrath. But when I say free, I mean free. Free from bond, of chain or command. To go where you will, even to Mordor, Saruman, if you desire. But you will first surrender to me the key of Orthanc and your staff. They shall be pledges of your conduct, to be returned later if you merit them. Saruman's face grew livid, twisted with rage, and a red light was kindled in his eyes. He laughed wildly. Later, he cried, and his voice rose to a scream. Later, yes.
Hey, Fisher Studios, how you doing?
The keys of Barad-dûr itself,
Hope you're doing well.
Suppose, and the crowns of 7 kings, and the rods of the 5 wizards, and have purchased yourself a pair of boots many sizes larger than those that you wear now. A modest plan, hardly one in which
how's your evening going?
I have other things to do. Don't be a fool. If you wish to treat with me, while you have a chance, go away and come back when you're sober. And leave behind these cutthroats and small ragtags that tangle at your tail. Good day. He turned and left the balcony. Come back, Saruman, said Gandalf in a commanding voice. To the amazement of the others,
I'm not going too bad. Can't complain none.
And as if dragged against his will, he came slowly back to the iron rail, leaning on it, breathing hard. His face was lined and shrunken.
Hey, Nitblash. They're broken.
Heavy black staff like a claw.
I actually got some frames to put the new lenses in, and
said Gandalf sternly.
the lens broke.
You have become a fool,
and I can't just
pitiable.
replace the lens by going there and giving them my my script,
choose to stay and gnaw the ends of your
because
own
that script I have for my glasses is
come out again.
already expired by several years, like 2 or 3 years. So I gotta go through the whole process of finding another eye doctor, getting an eye exam, and then getting glasses, which when you got having paid out of pocket on a fixed income is
and spoke slowly.
A little difficult to say the least. And without my glasses, I can't hardly see.
And the staff split asunder in Saruman's hand, and the head of it fell down at Gandalf's feet. Go, said Gandalf. With a cry, Saruman fell back and crawled away.
I've been napping all evening.
At that moment, a heavy shining thing came hurtling down from above. It glanced off the iron rail, even as Saruman left it, and passing close to Gandalf's head, it smote the stair on which he stood. The rail rang and snapped. The stair cracked and splintered in glittering sparks, but the ball was unharmed. It rolled on down the steps.
Yeah, but it doesn't cover my glasses around here.
It bounded away towards a pool. Pippin ran after it and picked it up. The murderous rogue, cried Éomer, but Gandalf was unmoved. No, that was not thrown by Saruman, he said, nor even at his bidding, I think. It came from a window far above, a parting shot from...
Well, my vision's horrible.
The aim was poor, maybe.
I think it's either Medicaid or Medicare that I got. I can't remember which.
Said Aragorn. That may be so.
Let me see.
Small comfort will those two have in their companionship. They will gnaw one another with words, but the punishment is just. If Wormtongue ever comes out of Orthanc alive, it will be more than he deserves. Here, my lad, I'll take that. I didn't ask you to handle it, he cried, turning sharply and seeing Pippin coming up the steps, slowly, as if he were bearing a great weight. He went down to meet him and hastily took the dark globe from the hobbit, wrapping it in the folds of his cloak. I'll take care of this, he said. It's not a thing, I guess, that Saruman would have chosen to cast away.
I guess I get Medicaid.
Have other things to cast, said Gimli. If that's the end of the debate, let's go out of stone's throw at least. It is the end, said Gandalf. Let us go. They turned their backs on the doors of Orthanc and went down. The riders hailed the king with joy and saluted Gandalf. The spell of Saruman was broken. They had seen him come at call and crawl away, dismissed. Well, that's done, said Gandalf. Now I must find Treebeard and tell him how things have gone.
Oh, that'll help me now.
He'll have guessed, surely, said Merry. Were they likely to end any other
There's
way?
usually nothing available.
Not likely, answered Gandalf.
Anywhere close, and
the balance of a hair. But
it's usually out of town.
Some merciful and some less so. First, Saruman was shown that the power of his voice was waning.
I could probably get something done in Albuquerque, but
it remains no longer secret.
Being able to make it from here to there
into the trap and tried to deal
is
with
another deal.
Piecemeal, while others listened. Then I gave him a last choice and a fair one, to renounce both Mordor and his private schemes and make amends by helping us. He knows our need, none better. Great service he could have rendered, but he's chosen to withhold it and keep the power of Orthanc. He will not serve, only command. He lives now in terror of the shadow of Mordor, and yet he still dreams of riding the storm. Unhappy fool. He'll be devoured if the power of the East stretches out its arms to Isengard. We can't destroy Orthanc from without, but Sauron, who knows what he will do.
I think maybe about the same. I think it's about
what will you do to him?
3 to 4 hours, depending on how you drive.
Said Gandalf. I won't do anything to him.
Maybe a little more than 4, but
what will become of him? I can't say. I grieve that so much that was good now festers in the tower. Still, for us, things have not gone badly. Strange are the turns of fortune. Often does hatred hurt itself. I guess that, even if we had entered in, we could have found new treasures in Orthanc more precious than the thing which Wormtongue threw down at us. A shrill shriek, suddenly cut off, came from an open window.
From there to Albuquerque.
It seems that Saruman thinks so too.
And then my brother, most hated, can't take me down there because his Tahoe, it costs a little bit in gas for that, plus his transmission is shot,
Treebeard and a dozen other Ents came
and his tires are
gazed at them in wonder.
pretty old to where you wouldn't want to take them on the highway.
I've spoken of them, but you haven't yet
Las
seen them.
Lunas? Nice.
He named them one by one. The old Ent looked at them long and searchingly, and spoke to them in turn. Last he came to Legolas. So you have come all the way from Mirkwood, my good elf? A very great forest that you.
What would be cool is
and still is.
If we had a lens crafter over here to where I could get the eye exam done pretty cheap, because I usually always go for the contact exam, which covers both.
Treebeard's eyes gleamed with pleasure.
But lens crafters, at least it used to be to where you get your eye exam, and then you're able to get your actual eyeglasses in like an hour.
Said Legolas. I've made a bargain with my friend that, if all goes well,
Eye associates, nice. How long does it take you to get your actual glasses or contacts when you after you get your exam and purchase them, should I say?
Glowing sun here. Gimli bowed low, and the axe slipped from his belt and clattered on the ground. Oh no, said Treebeard, looking dark-eyed at him. A dwarf and an axe-bearer? I have goodwill to elves, but you ask much. This is a strange friendship. Strange it may seem, said Legolas, but while Gimli lives,
not bad.
I shall not come to Fangorn alone. His axe is not for trees, but for Orkneys, O Fangorn, master of Fangorn's wood. 42 he hewed in the battle. Oh, come now, said Treebeard. That's a better story. Well, things will go as they will, and there's no need to hurry to meet them. But now we must part for a while. Day is drawing to an end, yet Gandalf says you must go ere nightfall, and the Lord of the Mark is eager for his own house. Yes, we must go, and go now, said Gandalf. I fear that I must take your gatekeepers from you, but you'll manage well enough without them. Maybe I shall, said Treebeard, but I shall miss them. We've become friends in so short a while that I think I must be getting hasty, growing backwards towards youth, perhaps. But they're the first new thing under sun or moon that I've seen for many a
All
long,
Walmart here,
long day.
that's where I usually would go because it was cheaper for my eye exam, but they no longer have, at least where I live, we no longer have an eye doctor that comes into Walmart. You can still order your glasses and contacts and whatnot, but they just don't have an eye doctor that goes in.
They shall remain friends as long as leaves are renewed. Fare you well. But if you hear news up in your pleasant land in the Shire, send me word. You know what I mean. Word or sight of the...
That's why when I wanted to go to Albuquerque too, because just in case if your guys are, well, one of the Walmarts has an eye doctor, able to see an eye doctor, then they can just have the glasses shipped from that Walmart to the Walmart where I'm at.
I did not think he would. His heart is as rotten as a black worm's. Still, if I were overcome and all my trees destroyed, I would not come while I had one dark hole left to hide in. No, said Gandalf. But you've not got it to cover all the world with your trees and choke all up.
Hell yeah, appreciate that.
There it is. Saruman remains to nurse his hatred and weave again such webs as he can.
Definitely a good start to it.
But he must not be allowed to escape. Indeed, no. Hence will see to that, said Treebeard. Saruman shall not set foot beyond the rock without my leave. Hence will watch over him. Good, said Gandalf. That is what I hoped. Now I can go and turn to other matters with one care the less. But you must be wary. The waters have gone down. It will not be enough to put sentinels round the tower, I fear. I don't doubt that there were deep ways delved under Orthanc, and that Saruman hopes to go and come unmarked before long. If you will undertake the labor, I beg you to pour in the waters again, and do so until Isengard remains a standing pool, or you discover the outlets. When all the underground places are drowned, and the outlets blocked, then Saruman must stay upstairs and look out of the windows. Leave it to the Ents, said Treebeard. We shall search the valley from head to foot and peer under every pebble. Trees are coming back to live here. Old trees, wild trees. The watchwood we will call it. Not a squirrel will go here, but I shall know of it. Leave it to Ents. Until 7 times the years in which he tormented us have passed, we shall not tire of watching him. Chapter 11. The Palantir. The sun was shining behind the long western arm of the mountains when Gandalf and his companions, and the king with his riders, set out again from Isengard. Gandalf took Merry behind him, and Aragorn took Pippin. 2 of the king's men went on ahead, riding swiftly, and passed soon out of sight down into the valley. The others followed at an easy pace. Ents in a solemn row stood like statues at the gate, with their long arms uplifted, but they made no sound. Merry and Pippin looked back when they had passed some way down the winding road. Sunlight was still shining in the sky, but long shadows reached over Isengard, grey ruins falling into darkness. Treebeard stood alone there now, like the distant stump of an old tree. The hobbits thought of their first meeting, upon the sunny ledge, far away on the borders of Fangor. They came to the pillar of the White Hand. The pillar was still standing, but the graven hand had been thrown down and broken to small pieces. Right in the middle of the road, the long forefinger lay, white in the dusk, its red nail darkening to black. The Ents pay attention to every detail, said Gandalf. They rode on, and evening deepened in the valley. Are we riding far tonight, Gandalf? asked Merry after a while. I don't know how you feel with small ragtag dangling behind you, but the ragtag is tired and will be glad to stop dangling and lie down. So you heard that, said Gandalf. Don't let it rankle. Be thankful no longer words were aimed at you. He had his eyes on you. If it is any comfort to your pride, I should say that, at the moment, you and Pippin are more in his thoughts than all the rest of us. Who you are, how you came there, and why, what you know, whether you were captured, and if so, how you escaped when all the orcs perished. It is with those little riddles that the great mind
the
of
other
Saruman
part that
is
sucks
strong.
about not having my glasses
Is a compliment.
they can't see in part of
Thank you,
the headaches it gives you.
but it's a greater honor to dangle at your tail, Gandalf. For one thing, in that position one has a chance of putting a question a second time.
That's the only part I don't like.
Gandalf laughed.
Thing I'd be able to deal with.
All wizards should have a hobbit or
And
two.
not be able to see
the meaning of the word
over getting the headaches.
But I have given thought even to these simple matters. We will ride for a few hours, gently, until we come to the end of the valley. Tomorrow we must ride faster. When we came, we meant to go straight from Isengard back to the king's house at Aetheris over the plains, a ride of some days. But we've taken thought and changed the plan.
I need him to see far away,
to warn them that the king is returning.
And I have a stigmatism also. So just to read anything, like when I'm reading the chat, I'm having to get about that close to be able to read it. And that's still with me squinting.
I'm afraid I wasn't looking beyond tonight's bed. Where and what are Helm's Deep and all the rest of it? I don't know anything about this country.
Yeah, the screen on my laptop, all the chat right here, I can't see none of that. That's all blurry, and even the picture right here, I can see parts of it, but mainly all blurry. So I can't really my vision's pretty bad.
There was some link between Isengard and Mordor, which I've not yet fathomed. How they exchanged news, I'm not sure, but they did so. The Eye of Barad-dûr will be looking impatiently towards the Wizard Vale, I think, and towards Rohan. The less it sees, the better. The road passed slowly, winding down the valley.
Well, I guess mine's on both of them are pretty bad.
In its stony bed. Night came down from the mountains. All the mists were gone. A chill wind blew. The moon, now waxing round, filled the eastern sky with a pale, cold sheen. The shoulders of the mountain to their right sloped down to bare hills. The wide plains opened grey before them. At last they halted. Then they turned aside, leaving the highway and taking to the sweet upland turf again. Going westward a mile or so, they came to a dale. It opened southward, leaning back into the slope of round Dol Bara, the last hill of the northern ranges, green-footed, crowned with heather. The sides of the glen were shaggy with last year's bracken, among which the tight-curled fronds of spring were just thrusting through the sweet-scented earth. Thorn bushes grew thick upon the low banks, and under them they made their camp. 2 hours or so before the middle of the night. They lit a fire in a hollow, down among the roots of a spreading hawthorn, tall as a tree, writhen with age, but hale in every limb. Buds were swelling at each twig's tip. Guards were set, 2 at a watch. The rest, after they had supped, wrapped themselves in a cloak and blanket and slept. The hobbits lay in a corner by themselves upon a pile of old bracken. Merry was sleepy, but Pippin now seemed curiously restless. The bracken cracked and rustled as he twisted and turned. "What's the matter?" asked Merry. "Are you lying on an anthill?" "No," said Pippin, "but I'm not comfortable. I wonder how long it is since I slept in a bed." Merry yawned. "Work it out on your fingers," he said. "But you must know how long it is since we left Lorien." "Oh, that," said Pippin. I mean a real bed in a bedroom. Well, Rivendell then, said Mary. But I could sleep anywhere tonight. You had the luck, Mary, said Pippin softly, after a long pause. You were riding with Gandalf. Well, what of it? Did you get any news, any information out of him? Yes, a good deal, more than usual. But you heard it all, or most of it. You were close by, and we were talking no secrets. But you can go with him tomorrow if you think you'll get more out of him, and if he'll have you. Can I? Good. But he's close, isn't he? Not changed at all? Oh, yes, he is, said Mary, waking up a little and beginning to wonder what was bothering his companion. He has grown, or something. He can be both kinder and more alarming, merrier and more solemn than before, I think. He's changed, but we've not had a chance to see him much yet. But think of the last part of that business with Saruman. Remember, Saruman was once Gandalf's superior, head of the council, whatever that may be exactly. He was Saruman the White. Gandalf is the White now. Saruman came when he was told, and his rod was taken. And then he was just told to go, and he went. Well, if Gandalf has changed at all, then he's closer than ever, that's all, Pippin argued. That glass ball now. He seemed mighty pleased with it. He knows or guesses something about it. But does he tell us what? No, not a word. Yet I picked it up, and I saved it from rolling into a pool. Here, I'll take that, my lad. That's all. I wonder what it is. It felt so very heavy. Pippin's voice fell very low, as if he was talking to himself. Hello, said Mary. So that's what is bothering you. Now, Pippin, my lad, don't forget Gildor's saying, the one Sam used to quote, do not meddle in the affairs of wizards, for they are subtle and quick to anger. But our whole life for months has been one long meddling in the affairs of wizards, said Pippin. I should like a bit of information as well as danger. I should like to look at that ball. Go to sleep, said Mary. You'll get information enough sooner or later. My dear Pippin, no took ever beat a brandy buck for inquisitiveness. But is this the time, I ask you? All right. What's the harm in my telling you what I should like? A look at that stone. I know I can't have it, with old Gandalf sitting on it like a hen on an egg. But it doesn't help much to get no more from you than a you can't have it, so go to sleep. Well, what else could I say? Said Mary. I'm sorry, Pippin, but you really must wait till the morning. I'll be as curious as you like after breakfast, and I'll help in any way I can at wizard wheedling, but I can't keep awake any longer. If I yawn any more, I shall split at the ears. Good night. Pippin said no more. He lay still now, but sleep remained far away, and it was not encouraged by the sound of Mary breathing softly, asleep in a few minutes after saying good night. The thought of the dark globe seemed to grow stronger as all grew quiet. Pippin felt again its weight in his hands, and saw again the mysterious red depths into which he had looked for a moment. He tossed and turned and tried to think of something else. At last he could stand it no longer. He got up and looked round. It was chilly, and he wrapped his cloak about him. The moon was shining cold and white, down into the dell, and the shadows of the bushes were black. All about lay sleeping shapes. The two guards were not in view. They were up on the hill, perhaps, or hidden in the bracken. Driven by some impulse that he did not understand, Pippin walked softly to where he looked down at it. The wizard seemed to speak, but his eyes were fully closed. There was a glitter of eyes under his long lashes. Pippin stepped back hastily, but Gandalf made no sign, and drawn forward.
No, we didn't catch nothing.
Will, the hobbit crept up.
We caught some bites.
He was rolled in the blanket, with his cloak spread over the top and close beside him. Between his right side and his bent arm, there was a hump, something round wrapped in a dark cloth. He seemed only just to have stood. Hardly breathing, Pippin crept nearer, foot by foot. At last he knelt down. Then he put his hands out stealthily and slowly lifted the lump up, It didn't seem quite so heavy as he'd expected. Only some bundle of oddments, perhaps, after all, he thought with a strange sense of relief. But he didn't put the bundle down again. He stood for a moment clasping it. Then an idea came into his mind. He tiptoed away, found a large stone, and came back. Quickly now he drew off the cloth, wrapped the stone in it, and kneeling down, laid it back by the wizard's hand. Then at last he looked at the thing that he had uncovered. There it was, a smooth globe of crystal, now dark and dead, lying bare before his knees. Pippin lifted it, covered it hurriedly in his own cloak, and half turned to go back to his bed. At that moment Gandalf moved in his sleep, and muttered some words. They seemed to be in a strange tongue. His hand groped out and clasped the wrapped stone. Then he sighed and did not move again. "You idiotic fool," Pippin muttered to himself. "You're going to get yourself into frightful trouble. Put it back quick." But he found now that his knees quaked.
We haven't stalked it in a while.
Near enough to the wizard to reach the bundle. "I'll never get it back now without
waking
him," he thought.
When we do the hot dogs, we used to use
so I may as well have a look
the
first.
packs of Kool-Aid in with it.
Just here, though. He stole away.
I'm not sure if it would make much of a difference between packs of Kool-Aid or packs of Jell-O.
Pippin sat with his knees drawn up and the ball between them. He bent low over
Because when we
like a greedy child,
went out
over a bowl of
the last
food in
time,
a corner away from others.
we had a rod. Well, we both had two rods or two rods on our license, anyways. And on one of the rods, I had hot dog, and on the other rod, on my bigger pole, I had chicken.
So that now he could not look
and that's
away.
how pretty much how Most Hated had his setup too, and the bites we got were mainly on the rods that had chicken on them. They weren't really biting the hot dogs that day, but there's some days that they'll be hitting like crazy on the hot dogs.
The guards leapt down from the banks. All the camp was soon astir. "So this is the thief," said Gandalf. Hastily he cast his cloak over the globe where it lay. "But you, Pippin, this is a grievous turn to things." He knelt by Pippin's body. The hobbit was lying on his back, rigid, with unseeing eyes staring up at the sky. "The devilry! What mischief has he done to himself and to all of us?" The wizard's face was drawn and haggard. He took Pippin's hand and bent over his face, listening for his breath. Then he laid his hands on his brow. The hobbit shuddered. His eyes closed. He cried out and sat up, staring in bewilderment at all the faces round him, pale in the moonlight. "It's not for you, Saruman," he cried in a shrill and toneless voice, shrinking away from Gandalf. "I will send for it at once. Do you understand? Say just that." Then he struggled to get up and escape, but Gandalf held him gently and firmly. "Peregrine Took," he said, "come back." The hobbit relaxed and fell back, clinging to the wizard's hand. "Gandalf," he cried. "Gandalf, forgive me." "Forgive you?" said the wizard. "Tell me first what you've done." I took the ball and looked at it," stammered Pippin, "and I saw things that frightened me, and I wanted to go away, but I couldn't. And then he came and questioned me, and he looked at me, and that is all I remember." "That won't do," said Gandalf sternly. "What did you see, and what did you say?" Pippin shut his eyes and shivered, but said nothing. They all stared at him in silence, except Merry, who turned away. But Gandalf's face was still hard. "Speak," he said. In a low, hesitating voice, Pippin began again, and slowly his words grew clearer and stronger. "I saw a dark sky and tall battlements," he said, "and tiny stars. It seemed very far away and long ago, yet hard and clear. Then the stars went in and out. They were cut off by things with wings, very big, I think, really. But in the glass they looked like bats wheeling round the tower. I thought there were 9 of them. One began to fly straight towards me, getting bigger and bigger. It had a horrible... No, I can't say. I tried to get away because I thought it would fly out, but when it had covered all the globe, it disappeared. Then he came. He didn't speak so that I could hear words. He just looked, and I understood. So you have come back. Why have you neglected to report for so long? I didn't answer. He said, "Who are you?" I still didn't answer, but it hurt me horribly, and he pressed me, so I said, "A hobbit." Then suddenly he seemed to see me, and he laughed at me. It was cruel. It was like being stabbed with knives. I struggled, but he said, "Wait a moment. We shall meet again soon. Tell Saruman that this dainty is not for him. I will send for it at once. You understand? Say just that." Then he gloated over me. I felt I was falling to pieces. No, I can't say any more. I don't remember anything else. "Look at me," said Gandalf. Pippin looked up straight into his eyes. The wizard held his gaze for a moment in silence.
1 second. I'll
Then
be
his face
right
grew
back.
gentler, and the shadow of a smile appeared. He laid his hand softly on Pippin's head. "All right," he said. "Say no more. You've taken no harm. There's no lie in your eyes, as I feared. But he didn't speak long with you. A fool, but an honest man you remained, Peregrine Took. Wiser ones might have done worse in such a pass. But mark this. You've been saved, and all your friends too, mainly by good fortune, as it's called. You can't count on it a second time. If he'd questioned you, then and there, almost certainly you would have told all that you know, to the ruin of us all. But he was too eager. He didn't want information only. He wanted you, quickly, so that he could deal with you in the dark tower, slowly. Don't shudder. If you will meddle in the affairs of wizards, you must be prepared to think of such things. But come, I forgive you. Be comforted. Things have not turned out as evilly as they might." He lifted Pippin gently and carried him back to his bed. Merry followed and sat beside him. "Lie there and rest if you can, Pippin," said Gandalf. "Trust me, if you feel an itch in your palms again, tell me of it. Such things can be cured. But anyway, my dear hobbit, don't put a lump of rock under my elbow again. Now I'll leave you two together for a while." With that, Gandalf returned to the others, who were still standing by the Orthanc stone in troubled thought. "Peril comes in the night when least expected," he said. "We've had a narrow escape." "How is the hobbit, Pippin?" asked Aragorn. "I think all will be well now," answered Gandalf. "He was not held long. The hobbits have an amazing power of recovery. The memory, or the horror of it, will probably fade quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. Will you, Aragorn, take the Orthanc stone? It's a dangerous charge." "Dangerous indeed, but not to all," said Aragorn. "There's one who may claim it by right. For this assuredly is the Palantir of Orthanc, from the treasury of Elendil, set here by the kings of Gondor. Now my hour draws near. I will take it." Gandalf looked at Aragorn, and then, to the surprise of the others, he lifted the covered stone and bowed as he presented it. "Receive it, Lord," he said. "In earnest of other things it shall be given back. But if I may counsel you in the use of your own, don't use it yet. Be wary." "When have I been hasty or unwary, who have waited and prepared for so many years?" asked Aragorn. "Never yet." "Don't then stumble at the end of the road," answered Gandalf. "But at the least keep this thing secret. You and all others that stand here. The hobbit, Peregrine, above all, should not know where it is bestowed. The evil fit may come on him again, for alas, he's handled it and looked in it. That should never have happened. You ought never to have touched it in Isengard, and there I should have been quicker. But my mind was bent on Saruman, and I didn't at once guess the nature of the stone. Then I was weary, and as I lay pondering it, sleep overcame me. Now I know." "Yes, there can be no doubt," said Aragorn. "At last we know the link between Isengard and Mordor, and how it worked. Much is explained." "Strange powers have our enemies, and strange weaknesses," said Theoden. "But it has long been said, oft evil will shall evil mar. That many times is seen, said Gandalf. But at this time we have been strangely fortunate. Maybe I've been saved by this hobbit from a grave blunder. I considered whether or not to probe this stone myself to find its uses. Had I done so, I should have been revealed to him myself. I'm not ready for such a trial, if indeed I shall ever be so. But even if I found the power to withdraw myself, it would be disastrous for him to see me. Yet, until the hour comes when secrecy will avail no longer. That hour is now come, I think, said Aragorn. Not yet, said Gandalf. There remains a short while of doubt, which we must use. The enemy, it is clear, thought that the stone was in Orthanc. Why should he not? And that therefore the hobbit was captive there, driven to look in the glass for his torment by Saruman. That dark mind will be filled now with the voice and face of the hobbit and with expectation. It may take some time before he learns his error. We must snatch that time. We've been too leisurely. We must move. The neighborhood of Isengard is no place to linger in. I will ride ahead at once with Peregrine Took. It will be better for him than lying in the dark while others sleep. I will keep Eomer and 10 riders, said the king. They shall ride with me at early day. The rest may go with Aragorn and ride as soon as they have a mind. As you will, said Gandalf, but make all the speed you may to the cover of the hills, to Helm's Deep. At that moment a shadow fell over them. The bright moonlight seemed to be suddenly cut off. Several of the riders cried out and crouched, holding their arms above their heads, as if to ward off a blow from above. A blind fear and a deadly cold fell on them. Cowering, they looked up. A vast winged shape passed over the moon like a black cloud. It wheeled and went north, flying at a speed greater than any wind of Middle-earth. The stars fainted before it. It was gone. They stood up, rigid as stones. Gandalf was gazing up, his arms out and downwards, stiff, his hands clenched. Nazgul, he cried, the messenger of LOTR. The storm is coming. The Nazgul have crossed the river. Ride, ride. Wait not for the dawn. Let not the swift wait for the slow. Ride. He sprang away, falling Shadowfax as he ran. Aragorn followed him. Going to Pippin, Gandalf picked him up in his arms. You shall come with me this time, he said. Shadowfax shall show you his paces. Then he ran to the place where he had slept. Shadowfax stood there ready, slinging the small bag, which was all his luggage, across his shoulders. The wizard leapt upon the horse's back. Aragorn lifted Pippin and set him in Gandalf's arms, wrapped in cloak and blanket. Farewell, follow fast, cried Gandalf. Away, Shadowfax! The great horse tossed his head. His flowing tail flicked in the moonlight. Then he leapt forward, spurning the earth, and was gone like the north wind from the mountains. Up to you. Yes. mainland. As he fell slowly into sleep, Peter had a strange feeling. He and Gandalf were still a stone, seated upon the statue of a running horse, while the world rolled away beneath his feet with a great noise of wind. Book 4, Chapter 1, The Taming of Smeagol. We're in said Sam Gamgee. He stood despondently with hunched shoulders beside Frodo and peered out with puckered eyes into the gloom. It was the third evening since they'd fled from the company, as far as they could tell. They had almost lost count of the hours during which they had climbed and labored among the barren slopes and stones of the Emyn Muil, sometimes retracing their steps because they could find no way forward, sometimes discovering that they had wandered in a circle, back to where they had been hours before. Yet on the whole they had worked steadily eastward, keeping as near as they could find a way to the outer edge of this strange, twisted knot of hills. But always they found its outward faces sheer, high and impassable, frowning over the plain below. Beyond its tumbled skirt lay livid, festering marshes where nothing moved and not even a bird was to be seen. The hobbit stood now on the brink of a tall cliff, bare and bleak, its feet wrapped in mist. The broken highlands crowned the chill wind blew from the east. Night was gathering over the shapeless lands before them. The sickly green of them was fading to a sullen brown. Far away to the right, the Anduin, that had gleamed fitfully in sunbreaks during the day, was now hidden in shadow. But their eyes didn't look beyond the river, back to Gondor, to their friends, to the lands of men. South and east they stared to where, at the edge of the oncoming night, a dark line hung, like distant mountains of motionless smoke. Every now and again a tiny red gleam sticking upwards on the rim of earth and sky. What fix? Said Sam. That's in all the lands we've ever heard of, but we don't want to see any closer. And that's the one place we're trying to get to. And that's just where we can't get, nohow. We've come the wrong way altogether, seemingly. We can't get down, and if we get down, we'll find all that green land a nasty bog, I'll warrant. Phew, can you smell it? He sniffed at the wind. Yes, I can smell it, said Frodo, but he didn't move, and his eyes remained fixed, staring out towards the dark line and the flickering flame. Mordor, he muttered under his breath. If I must go there, I wish I could come there quickly and make an end. He shuddered. The wind was chilly and yet heavy with an odor of cold decay. Where? He said, at last withdrawing his eyes. We can't stay here all night, fix or no fix. We must find a more sheltered spot, and camp once more, and perhaps another day will show us a path. Or another and another and another, muttered Sam. Or maybe no day. We've come the wrong way. I wonder, said Frodo. It's my doom, I think, to go to that shadow yonder, so that the way will be found. But will good or evil show it to me? What hope we had was in speed. Delay plays into the enemy's hands, and here I am, delayed. Is it the will of the Dark Tower that steers us? All my choices have proved ill. I should have left the company long before, and come down from the north, east of the river and of the Emyn Muil, and so over the hard of battle plain to the passes of Mordor. But now it is impossible for you and me alone to find a way back, and the orcs are prowling on the east bank. Every day that passes is a precious day lost. I'm tired, Sam. I don't know what's to be done. What food have we got left? Only those, what you call them, lembas, Mr. Frodo. A fair supply, but they're better than naught by a long bite. I never thought, though, when I first set foot in them, that I should ever come to wish for a change. What I do now, a bit of plain bread.
I'll be right back, everyone.
Half a mug of beer would go down proper. I've lugged my cooking gear all the way from the last camp, and what use has it been? Not to make a fire with for a start, and not to cook, not even grass. They turned away and went down into a stony hollow. The westering sun was caught into clouds, and the night came swiftly. They slept as well as they could for the cold, turn and turn about, in a nook among great jagged pinnacles of weathered rock. At least they were sheltered from the easterly wind. "Did you see them again, Mr. Frodo?" asked Sam, as they sat, stiff and chilled, munching wafers of lembas in the cold grey of early morning. "No," said Frodo. "I've heard nothing and seen nothing for 2 nights now." "Nor me," said Sam. "Grr, those eyes did give me a turn. But perhaps we've shaken him off at last, the miserable slinker. Gollum, I'll give him gollum in his throat if ever I get my hands on his neck." "I hope you'll never need to," said Frodo. "I don't know how he thought of this, but it may be that he's lost us again, as you say. In this dry, bleak land, we can't leave any footprints, nor much scent, even for his snuffling nose." "Oh, I hope that's the way of it," said Sam. "I wish we could be rid of him for good." "So do I. But he's not my chief trouble. I wish we could get away from these hills. I hate them. I feel all naked on the east side, stuck up here with nothing but the dead flats between me and that shadow yonder. There's an eye in it. Come on. We've got to get down today somehow." But that day wore on, and when afternoon faded towards evening, they were still scrambling along the ridge and had found no way of escape. Sometimes in the silence of that barren country they fancied that they heard faint sounds behind them, a stone falling or the imagined step of flapping feet on the rock. But if they halted and stood still listening, they heard no more. Nothing but the wind sighing over the edges of the stones. Yet even that reminded them of breath softly hissing through sharp teeth. All that day the outer ridges of the Emyn Muil had been bending gradually northward as they struggled on. Along its brink there now stretched a wide, tumbled flat of sward and weathered rock, cut every now and again by trench-like gullies that sloped steeply down to deep notches in the cliff face. To find a path in these clefts, which were becoming deeper and more frequent, Frodo and Sam were driven to their left, well away from the edge, and they didn't notice that for several miles they'd been going slowly but steadily downhill. The cliff top was sinking towards the level of the lowlands. At last they were brought to a halt. The ridge took a sharper bend northward and was gashed by a deeper ravine. On the further side it reared up again, many fathoms at a single leap. A great grey cliff loomed before them, cut sheer down as if by a knife stroke. They could go no further forwards, and must turn now either west or east. But west would lead them only into more labour and play, back towards the hearts of the hills. East would take them to the outer precipice. "There's nothing for it but to scramble down this gully, Sam," said Frodo. "Let's see what it leads to." "A nasty drop, I'll bet," said Sam. The cleft was longer and deeper than it seemed. Some way down they found a few gnarled and stunted trees, the first they had seen for days. Twisted birch for the most part, with here and there a fir tree. Many were dead and gaunt, bitten to the core by the eastern winds. Once in milder days there must have been a fair thicket in the ravine, but now, after some 50 yards, the trees came to an end, though old broken stumps straggled on almost to the cliff's brink. The bottom of the gully, which lay along the edge of a rock fault, was rough with broken stone and slanted steeply down. They came at last to the end of it. Frodo stooped and leaned out. "Look," he said, "we must have come down a long way, or else the cliff has sunk. It's much lower here than it was, and it looks easier too. Sam knelt beside him and peered reluctantly over the edge. Then he glanced up at the great cliff rising up, away on their left. Easier, he grunted. Well, I suppose it's always easier getting down than up. Those as can't fly can jump. It would be a big jump still, said Frodo. Well, he stood for a moment, measuring it with his eyes. About 18 fathoms, I should guess. Not more. And that's enough, said Sam. How I do hate looking down from a height. But looking's better than climbing. All the same, said Frodo, I think we could climb here, and I think we shall have to try. See, the rock is quite different from what it was a few miles back. It has slipped and cracked. The outer fall was indeed no longer sheer, but sloped outwards a little. It looked like a great rampart or sea wall whose foundations had shifted, so that its courses were all twisted and disordered, leaving great fissures and long slanting edges that were in places almost as wide as stairs. And if we're going to try and get down, we'd better try at once. It's getting dark early. I think there's a storm coming. The smoky blur of the mountains in the east was lost in a deeper blackness that was already reaching out westward with long arms. There was a distant mutter of thunder borne on the rising breeze. Frodo sniffed the air and looked up doubtfully at the sky. He strapped his belt outside his coat and tightened it, and settled his light pack on his back. Then he stepped back. I'm going to try it, he said. Very good, said Sam gloomily. But I'm going first. You, said Frodo? What's made you change your mind about climbing? I haven't changed my mind, but it's only sense. Put the one lowest as is most likely to slip. I don't want to come down atop of you and knock you off. No sense in killing two with one fall. Before Frodo could stop him, he sat down, swung his legs over the brink, and twisted round, scrabbling with his toes for a foothold. It is doubtful if he ever did anything braver in cold blood or more unwise. No, Sam, you old ass, said Frodo. You'll kill yourself for certain going over like that, without even a look to see what to make for. Come back. He took Sam under the armpits and hurled him up again. Now wait a bit and be patient, he said. Then he lay on the ground, leaning out and looking down, but the light seemed to be fading quickly, although the sun had not yet set. I think we could manage this, he said presently. I could at any rate, and you could too, if you kept your head and followed me carefully. I don't know how you can be sure, said Sam. Why, you can't see to the bottom in this light. What if you comes to a place where there's nowhere to put your feet or your hands? Climb back, I suppose, said Frodo. Easy said, objected Sam. Better wait till morning and more light. No, not if I can help it, said Frodo with a sudden strange vehemence. I grudge every hour, every minute. I'm going down to try it out. Don't you follow till I come back or call. Gripping the stony lip of the fall with his fingers, he let himself gently down, until when his arms were almost at full stretch, his toes found a ledge. One step down, he said, and this ledge broadens out to the right. I could stand there without a hold. His words were cut short. The hurrying darkness, now gathering great speed, rushed up from the east and swallowed the sky. There was a dry, splitting crack of thunder right overhead. Searing lightning smote down into the hills. Then came a blast of savage wind, and with it, mingling with its roar, there came a high, shrill shriek. The hobbits had heard just such a cry far away in the Marish as they fled from Hobbiton, and even there in the woods of the Shire it had frozen their blood. Out here in the waste its terror was far greater. It pierced them with cold blades of horror and despair, stopping heart and breath. Sam fell flat on his face. Involuntarily, Frodo loosed his hold and put his hands over his head and ears. He swayed, slipped, and slithered downwards with a wailing cry. Sam heard him and crawled with an effort to the edge. Master! Master, he called. Master! He heard no answer. He found he was shaking all over, but he gathered his breath. Once again he shouted, Master! The wind seemed to blow his voice back into his throat, but as it passed, roaring up the gully and away over the hills, a faint answering cry came to his ears. All right, I'm here, but I can't see. Frodo was calling with a weak voice. He wasn't actually very far away. He'd slid and not fallen, but had come up with a jolt to his feet on a wider ledge not many yards lower down. Fortunately, the rock face at this point leaned well back, and the wind had pressed him against the cliff, so that he hadn't toppled over. He steadied himself a little, laying his face against the cold stone, feeling his heart pounding, but either the darkness had grown complete, or else his eyes had lost their sight. All was black about him. He wondered if he'd been struck blind. He took a deep breath. Come back! Come back! He heard Sam's voice out of the blackness above. I can't, he said. I can't see. Can't find any hold. I can't move yet. What can I do, Mr. Frodo? What can I do? Shouted Sam, leaning out dangerously far. Why couldn't his master see? It was dim, certainly, but not as dark as all that. He could see Frodo below him, the grey, forlorn figure straight against the cliff. But he was far out of the reach of any helping hand. There was another crack of thunder, and then the rain came. In a blinding sheet, mingled with hail, it drove against the cliff, bitter cold. I'm coming down to you, shouted Sam, though how he hoped to help him that way he could not have said. No, wait, Frodo called back more strongly now. I shall be better soon. I feel better already. Wait, can't do anything without a rope. Rope! Cried Sam, talking wildly to himself in his excitement and relief. Well, if I don't deserve to be hung on the end of one as a warning to numbskulls, you're naught but a ninny hammer, Sam Gamgee. That's what the gaffer said to me often enough, it being a word of his. Rope. Stop chattering, cried Frodo, now recovered enough to feel both amused and annoyed. Never mind your gaffer. You trying to tell yourself you've got some rope in your pocket? If so, out with it. Yes, Mr. Frodo, in my pack and all, carried it hundreds of miles, and I'd clean forgotten it. Then get busy and let it end down. Quickly Sam unslung his pack and rummaged in it. There indeed at the bottom was a coil of silken grey rope made by the folk of Lorien. He cast an end to his master. The darkness seemed to lift from Frodo's eyes, or else his sight was returning. He could see the grey line as it came dangling down, and he thought it had a faint silver sheen. Now that he had some point in the darkness to fix his eyes on, he felt less giddy. Leaning his weight forward, he made the end fast to his waist, and then he grasped the line with both hands. Sam stepped back and braced his feet against a stump a yard or two from the edge. Half hauled, half scrambling, Frodo came up and threw himself on the ground. Thunder growled and rumbled in the distance, and the rain was still falling heavily. The hobbits crawled away back into the gully, but they didn't find much shelter there. Rills of water began to run down. Soon they grew to a spate that splashed and fumed on the stones, and spouted out over the hill like the gutters of a vast roof. I should have been half drowned down there, or washed clean off, said Frodo. What a piece of luck you had that rope. Better luck if I'd thought of it sooner, said Sam. Maybe you remember them putting the ropes in the boats as we started off, in the Elvish country? I took a fancy to it, and I stowed a coil in my pack. Years ago, it seems. It may be a help in many needs, he said. Haldir, or one of those folk. And he spoke right. A pity I didn't think of bringing another length, said Frodo. But I left the company in such a hurry and confusion. If only we'd enough, we could use it to get down. How long's your rope, I wonder? Sam paid it out slowly, measuring it with his arms. 5, 10, 20, 30 ells, more or less, he said. Who'd have thought it?
All right, everyone. I'm gonna call into this live for tonight. I want to thank everyone for stopping by and everyone who continues to stop by. I definitely appreciate all y'all's support. Until next time, everyone.